everyone. Welcome to Logan's Mosh Pit. Glad to have you here. Do me a favor and please subscribe if you haven't already. Gather round, bookworms, because the time has come for a new episode of Rock and Read. Today we'll read chapter 14 of Red by the Red Rocker Sammy Hagar. Chapter 14 is called Crazy Eddie. Let's find out what happens next. I had been waiting at Eddie's 5150 studios for more than an hour when he finally showed up. I hadn't seen him in 10 years. He looked like he hadn't bathed in a week. He certainly hadn't changed his clothes in at least that long. He wasn't wearing a shirt. He had a giant overcoat and army pants, tattered and ripped at the cuffs, held up with a piece of rope. I had never seen him so skinny in my life. He was missing a number of teeth, and the ones he had left were black. His boots were so worn out, he had gaffer's tape wrapped around them, and his big toe still stuck out. He walked up to me, hunched over like a little old man, a cigarette in his mouth. He had a third of his tongue removed because of cancer, and he spoke with a slight lisp.
"Are you all right, man?" he said.
"I'm fine," I said.
"Well, you look a little beat up," he said.
I glanced at Al, who was laughing. Kinda. The thought flashed through my mind that I should get the out of there. This guy is crazier than a loon. But he gave me the give me a hug move. An awkward embrace for sure. He was not only the weirdest I had ever seen him, he was more tore up than anybody I ever saw. But I hugged him. My idea was, if we were going to get along, we would make a new record. "Let's go play some music," I said. "Play me some stuff. What do you guys got?" He went digging through all these tapes and played me a bunch of song ideas. Just him and Al jamming, like always. Some of it was really cool. I was going, I like that, I like this. I don't necessarily like that. I stayed down there for a few days and tried to write with them. The earliest the day would start was noon. There were times Eddie did not come down to the studio until 9 o'clock at night. He lived next door. Al would go check on him. "He had a hard time last night," Al would say. "He was up trying to write songs." He may have lost a chunk of his tongue to cancer, but he was still smoking cigarettes. He claimed the cancer came from putting the guitar pick in his mouth while he used his fingers to play. I told him cigarettes killed our manager, Ed Leffler, but he didn't buy that. He walked around all day drinking cheap Shiraz straight out of the bottle. That's why his teeth were all black. "Ed, why don't you get a glass for that?" I said. He held up the bottle. "It's in a glass," he said. He was living with a pathologist who kept taking slices off his tongue to check for cancer. He beat the cancer. He told me he cured himself by having pieces of his tongue liquefied and injected into his body. He also told me when he had his hip replacement, he stayed awake through the operation and helped the doctors drill the hole. What a fruitcake. I don't know what he was doing, but he would keep going for what seemed like 3 or 4 days at a time. He used to hang out with one of our opening acts on the tour and come into their dressing room before the show. Whatever he was doing, he kept it out of view. I never saw what it was, but he was doing something. Plus, drinking wine all day. He would never be in one place longer than 20 minutes. "I'll be right back," he would say. "I gotta take a..." Gary Sharon told me he did that once in the middle of a show. His marriage was over. Valerie was gone. He finally invited me over to this giant, extravagant, 16,000 square foot house that he and Valerie had built before the split. It looked like vampires lived there. There were bottles and cans all over the floor. The handle was broken off the refrigerator door. It was like a bum shack. There were spider webs everywhere. He had big blankets thrown over the windows. The mattresses were stripped off the beds and leaned against the wall for soundproofing. He was making music and trying to get the sound right. He said we were going to record a lot over there. He had dug a trench to run wires from the studio to his house. We never used it even once for the 3 songs we eventually did record. He was sleeping on the floor with a blanket and a pillow. There was no food in the cupboard. I had never seen a dirtier place in my life. It was like the house out of that movie, Grey Gardens. This was Eddie Van Halen, one of the sweetest guys I had ever met. He had turned into the weirdest I had ever seen. Crude, rude, and unkempt. I should have walked, but Eddie's got a very charming, cunning side to him, where you feel like he's got a good heart. He's going to come through, he's going to clean up, and we're going to get this thing done. I thought some of the music was great, but it was all recordings. Getting him to actually play music proved more difficult. He started to play the song that became Up for Breakfast on the Greatest Hits record. The keyboard part was already digitally recorded. Al and Eddie were going to play live to show me. I had a microphone in my hand. I was ready to jam with them like we always did. He started and stopped. "I've got to play the keyboard part," he said. Ed would start the song and then go, wait, I got to change my amp." He'd never get more than a couple bars into it. "Oh, no, wait a minute. This ain't right. I got to switch guitars." He couldn't make it through the song. About 2 hours later, Al pulled out a tape and played me an already recorded version. I loved what I heard. The keyboard sequence reminded me of Why Can't This Be Love, and another one of my favorites, Mine, All Mine. But the sessions were a mess. Al was in complete denial. I would try and talk to Al about his brother, but he wouldn't hear it. "You know him," Al would say, pointing at Eddie's signature painted guitar. "See all those stripes, whacked out things all over the place? That's the way his mind works. Everything this way, that way, scattered. Can't focus, can't concentrate." We planned on recording an album in 3 months, but pretty quickly it became apparent we had 3 songs that were going to be alright, and there wasn't going to be any album. We brought in producer Glenn Ballard, who made Alanis Morissette's Jagged Little Pill, a total pro who really tried to make things happen. I had written my lyrics. Eddie had piles of cassettes. We salvaged old tapes, sessions with Sharon, Roth, I don't know, sliced and diced them into new songs, and I wrote lyrics. We had all that ready within 1 week. It took 3 months for Ed to do the guitar parts to 3 songs and a couple of solos. The Eddie Van Halen I first met could have done that in an hour. I was in there one day when Ed came in with a C-clamp. Glenn Ballard asked me to come down and be part of all the sessions, try to keep the vibe good, and help orchestrate this thing. Help him, really. He didn't want to be in there all alone with this madman. Eddie had this Telecaster he wanted to play, but he could never get it to stay in tune. Every time he tried it, it played differently. They had been working on this for 3 or 4 days when Eddie took the guitar to his workshop, C-clamped it to his workbench, and ran cables out of the studio down the driveway. It didn't work, of course. It seemed like whenever I went to the studio around 5 o'clock in the afternoon, Ed still hadn't shown up yet. I'd hang around, but by the time Eddie made it down to the studio at 9 o'clock, I was gone. He would burn out everybody, staying up working all night. When I tried to talk to him about it, he looked at me like I was crazy. "You know I can't do anything unless I'm creative," he said. Ed decided he wanted to play bass. He wouldn't let Mike play bass on these 3 songs. On one song, It's About Time, it took him at least a week to do the bass part. Mike could have done it in an hour. When they finally laid down the rhythm guitar tracks, that was all I needed to sing. I didn't need his guitar solos. I didn't need any of the other production. As soon as they got that, I went in and knocked my vocals out on all 3 songs in 2 hours. Michael Anthony came in and we did all the backgrounds in another 2 hours. Half a day, we were done. Eddie was still asleep. By the time he came down, we were finished. I left. They spent the next 3 months doing Eddie's guitars. We started rehearsals for the tour. The concert was the hottest attraction of the summer. Promoters laid down big bucks and snapped up 80 dates. The Van Halens wanted a new bass player. I told them that I would not do a reunion without Mike. They still managed to grind him down to a small percentage of what he would have earned as a full-time partner. Al Irving and I all gave up pieces to give Mikey some, and he signed away all further rights to Van Halen after the tour. They were mad at him. They were mad at me too. I just didn't realize yet how mad they were. They were still pissed about Cabo Wabo and holding on to the idea that I screwed them somehow on the deal. If anybody did that, it was Ray Daniels, their former manager. When the government put the yellow ribbon around the club, they wanted to shut it down and wouldn't spend any money to keep it open. We were still fighting about that when the band broke up. Ray Daniels gave me Cabo Wabo in exchange for my interest in the Van Halen trademark. At the time, they didn't care, but by the reunion, the tequila was everywhere, and people were always coming up and talking about the cantina. It drove them nuts. They put it in the contract that I could not wear any Cabo Wabo t-shirts on stage or mention anything about the tequila or the cantina on the mic. I went straight to a tattoo parlor, and I got this giant Cabo Wabo tattoo on my shoulder. I knew we would be carrying giant video screens and that, as the lead vocalist, I was going to get plenty of close-ups on those giant video screens. I didn't need a t-shirt. They didn't know I did this. I made a point of wearing long-sleeved shirts. But Mikey knew. He would walk into a rehearsal and slap me on the shoulder. "How you doing?" he said. It hurt like a mother with all that black in the tattoo. Mike kept slapping me on the shoulder and making jokes, but the Van Halens didn't know what I'd done. Rehearsals didn't go well. Eddie was having trouble finishing songs. Something would go wrong with his equipment. It was the same routine as when we had first started messing around in the studio months before. He would start songs, but wouldn't finish. I left at dinner time. Al would stay up all night with him. Eddie never played the whole set at rehearsal. All he wanted to play at rehearsal was the 3 new songs. He wouldn't learn the old songs. Something was always wrong. I'd walk into a rehearsal and he'd be tearing apart his speakers. The 3 new songs were all he knew, kind of, and he didn't know them all that well. We could play the keyboard songs with the keyboards on tape, and he could noodle along. When It's Love, songs like that. We never got through the other songs. Run Around, Top of the World, Finish What You Started. He could not play Why Can't This Be Love. He fired the monitor guy, fired the sound guy, fired the keyboard tech, fired at least 5 guitar techs, and that was just during rehearsals. Something is wrong when a guy blames everybody else, like the keyboard guy is just hitting a button that triggers the keyboard part. It was the craziest, most whacked out stuff. I knew it was a disaster. I told Irving. Irving is really a professional. He knows how to get things done, but Irving is not a confrontational guy. He preferred to smooth things. But right after we started rehearsals, Irving agreed to hold an intervention with Eddie. He brought a big, beefy security guard and met Al and me at 5150. Eddie walked in carrying his wine bottle. Irving did all the talking. He told Eddie the tour was going to be difficult, that he needed to go away for a week or 2, that we could postpone some dates if we needed. We all agreed Eddie needed to clean up. He smashed the bottle.
"You," he said, "I will kill the first mother that tries to take this bottle away from me. I left my family for this. You think I'm gonna do this for you guys?"
That's how sick the cat was at that moment. It was going to be a long tour. The opening show in Greensboro, North Carolina was phenomenal. Eddie wasn't phenomenal, but he was okay. David Fisher designed a set from an idea by Al and me that used the Van Halen rings as a way to put special seating sections in the middle of the stage. The first time I stepped out on that stage, it blew me away. The band was so powerful. The fans were so great. That carried me a long way. But from the start of the tour, I couldn't listen to Eddie. He made some terrible mistakes, and it seemed like he couldn't remember the songs. He would just hit the whammy bar and go, "Weedle, weedle, wee." I'd listen to Mikey to find my note. Whenever he came out with no shirt and his hair tied up samurai style, he seemed up. That was his little signal. I don't know what it was. He would come out first with his hair down, go back to change guitars, or after Al's drum solo, and come back with his hair up and his shirt off. I'd look at Mike and we'd roll our eyes. Here we go. Some nights he'd come out at the beginning of the show with his shirt off and hair up. He looked like a bum in the street. His hair was matted. One time, we got on a plane after a show, and he spent practically the whole flight in the bathroom. When he finally came out, he had this hairbrush, the kind with the fur bristles, twisted up in his hair, hanging down. He was soaking wet, covered in water, like he tried to take a bath in the airplane's sink. I made Carrie look at me. I didn't want this guy in my face. He flopped down on the floor, fussing with the brush caught in his hair, and never went back to his seat. Landed that way. Hospital crazy. When we didn't have our kids out on the road with us, Carrie and I shared this big Gulfstream jet with Eddie and his girlfriend, Al and his wife, Mikey, and some management and security people. After one show, Mike and I stayed back like we normally did and showered. Ed didn't shower. He jumped into the limo right off the stage and went straight to the airplane. When Mike and I rolled up, laughing, joking, eating a couple of barbecue sandwiches we had ordered, Eddie was sitting there drinking his wine out of the bottle. He went off on us. "Don't ever make me wait," he said. "Without me, you're nothing. You need me. You'll see. At the end of this tour, you guys will have nothing. You're going to have to call me if you ever want to tour again." He was facing one direction. I was facing the other. I turned around and said, "Ed, shut the up, man. Come on, we just did a gig." "You," he said, and started bashing his bottle on the plane window. One of the security guards tried to calm him down, but he kept yelling and pounding the bottle. I turned my back on him. My guy from Irving's office was looking at me, shaking his head and zipping his lips. The stewardess and the pilot started freaking out. They were reluctant to take off with this madman on the plane. Finally, Al got him to take it easy, and we took off. When we arrived at the next hotel, Eddie started asking everybody what my room number was. He didn't know the alias I used when I checked into hotels. The tour manager reached me on the room phone and told me Eddie was looking for me. "Bring that mother over here," I said. "I quit. This is done. I'm going home tomorrow. I'm not going to work with this guy ever again. He's trying to bust the window out of a $40 million jet. He's got no respect for anything or anybody. Him. I'm done with this tour." I called my attorney. He wasn't very happy with the contract I had signed once he read it. Irving and his attorney had drawn it up. Outside of dire medical emergencies, if I canceled any shows, I was liable for all lost income. He thought it could cost $5 million to leave before I finished the shows. I was trapped. Eddie apologized, but I was never flying in a plane with him again. It was the Sam and Dave tour all over again. Only it was Sam and Eddie. They kept us apart as much as they could. Irving knew better. We flew in different jets. We stayed at different hotels. We had our own limos. They had their bodyguards. Mike and I had ours. I stayed in my own dressing room on the other side of the hall. The only time I saw that guy was when we stepped out on stage. Once in a while, I'd go over to his dressing room before the show and see how he was. And the times I did that, it was usually great. He'd start playing, I'd start singing, jamming around, like old times. Other times, he'd start telling me crazy, like, "I pulled my own tooth. This thing was bugging me, so I got a pair of pliers and pulled it out." I didn't think he could make it. I kept thinking each week would be the last. He was going to land in the hospital. He collapsed a couple times. He told us one time that he had been hit by a car. He was lying down and he was so up, he couldn't get up. I got hit by a car, he said. You guys don't understand. He would go until he collapsed. Then he would pass out for a day or two in a hotel. He would wear the same clothes for a week. He would run off stage and not change, go straight up to his room. The next morning, he would be wearing the same clothes. That night on stage, same clothes. He wore those boots with the tape around them the whole tour. His solo turned into a disaster. It used to be the highlight of every show. Now he would play nothing, just garbage. He would try to play Eruption, one of his greatest pieces, and screw it up. He would just grab the whammy bar, hit the sustainer, and start making all this noise. The audience wasn't buying it either. I saw his solo many nights. He would say unbelievable things to the audience. I'm just around, he would say. I love you people. You pay my rent. This got so bad, Al threw drumsticks at him once. Another time, he couldn't even stand up. He sat on the drum riser. Al had dropped a stick. He picked up the drumstick and started using that on his guitar solo. It was like a little kid banging on things. I didn't go near him on stage. No more Jimmy Page and Robert playing. If he's over there, I'm over here. When he comes over here, I'm going over there. No bad vibes, just no vibes. It seemed to me that Ed was going through the motions, like he didn't care about his playing. He didn't care about the way he looked. He just went out there and took the money. He was embarrassing. Al, Mike, and I did it from the heart. We played our asses off every night. Ed went out there and jerked off. We went through 3 sound guys. He would take a board mix after shows and listen to it. The sound guy would bury his guitar because he was playing so bad. He was playing so loud on stage anyway. He probably didn't need to have his guitar pumped through the main house speakers, but he would crucify the sound man and fire him the next day. Al and I would argue to get the guy back, but that never worked. Those two often shared a high school mentality. They hated every other band. It was always competitive with them. Everybody else sucked. I don't like everything, but I like music, and when I hear a musician I like, I want to embrace him, bring him backstage, make him welcome. Eddie was usually a rude, wise guy. I brought Kenny Chesney backstage on that tour and took him to meet Eddie. Eddie shook his hand and turned around. I gotta take a... he said. He walked into the John with the guy standing right there. Let's get out of here, Kenny said. That was their only meeting. It was the first night I met Kenny. We went back to my dressing room and played acoustic guitars, singing All Fall in Love Again, Eagles Fly, and all these songs of mine that he loved. We were drinking tequila and singing until 3 in the morning. He became one of my dear friends. But Ed? I gotta take a... That usually meant he was gonna go and tie up his hair. Another time, Toby Keith came to see us in Oklahoma City, not far from his hometown. I decided to do his I Love This Bar during my acoustic segment and worked up this whole deal with Toby. I was going to say that, since he was from around these parts, I was going to do one of his songs, even though I knew he was out of town. Then he would walk out midway through the song and sing the rest of it with me. Toby told me later that while he was waiting backstage, Eddie cornered him and tried to keep him from going out. Why would you want to go on with him? Toby said. Ed asked. Why didn't you come out with us? You didn't invite me, Toby said. I'm inviting you now, Eddie said. Why are you wearing that cowboy hat? I'm a country guy, said Toby. No, it's because you're bald, Eddie said. Toby walked out on stage halfway through the song, and the place exploded. Eddie went crazy the rest of the night. He destroyed his dressing room after the show. His son Wolfie was in my dressing room, scared and crying. I went to see if I could calm him down. We left Ed behind that night in Oklahoma City with his tour manager and a couple of security guys and went to the next city without him. When they took him back to the hotel, he kicked out the limousine window. "That boy needs help," said Toby, who drove down to the gig with his wife and teenage daughter in his truck. Irving would come out a lot, but he wouldn't go near Ed. No one wanted to go near him because they figured it would blow up the whole tour if Eddie quit. I'm sure the contract was written the same way for him as it was for me. If he quit or went down, if he had missed 3 consecutive performances, I could have walked. He never missed one. Ed never lost his work ethic. The Van Halens come from good, hard-working Dutch stock. He was there every night, in the worst shape you could imagine. But he did the show. He was starting to let his anger toward me show. We sold these deluxe $1,000 packages that not only included the special seating in the stage, but you could go backstage, watch sound check, and eat at catering. I never do sound checks. I'm a singer. I save my voice for the show. But some of my fans brought these packages and showed up wearing Cabo Wabo t-shirts. Mikey told me that Eddie would pick on them. "Where'd you get that shirt?" he'd say. "What a piece of..." The last 2 shows were at a small amphitheater, and the second night, Eddie unwound completely. He knew it was the end of the tour. He knew he was done. He came up to me before the show when I was talking to Irving and rolled my sleeve down over my tattoo. I didn't even acknowledge him. I just rolled it back up. He rolled it back down. I rolled it back up. "Don't be with my shirt, dude," I said. "That thing ain't gonna last," he said, showing me his Van Halen tattoo. "See that? That's better. That's gonna last longer." Like I cared. We had a crew on that tour of more than 120. I had a bunch of cases of tequila in my dressing room, and I was sitting in my dressing room signing bottles for the crew. Eddie came in and saw what I was doing. "Can I have a bottle?" he said. I went over to my refrigerator and pulled one out. "I'll give you a bottle," I said. "These others are all signed for the crew." He took a couple big slugs and set it down. "Why can't I have one of these?" he said. I told him these bottles were for the crew, and I had the exact right number. "If you take one," I told him, "someone's not going to get one." He walks away, over to one of my guests in the dressing room, a booking agent Eddie knew but mistook for the son of Warner Brothers record chairman Mo Austin. He proceeded to give the guy a ration about something that made no sense to anyone but Ed. "And your dad? He was a great man. And you and your brother are nothing." He was raving crazy. He had already attacked Valerie's brother, who made the mistake of showing up at the concert to see his ex-brother-in-law. People were screaming and yelling in the dressing room, and he was running wild, beating up people and smashing bottles against the wall. He lost it completely. Irving took me aside. "When this show's over," he told me, "I'm getting you in a limo, and we're getting out of here." My plane was waiting to take me home. It was the worst show we had ever done in our lives. Eddie played so bad. My nephew was standing on the side of the stage with me, watching Eddie do his solo. "I've never seen anything like this," he said. "What's wrong with him?" He smashed his favorite guitar to pieces, sprayed shrapnel into the crowd. He got on the microphone crying. "You don't understand," he said. "You people pay my rent. I love you people." Then tell me he pulled some crazy on the plane home. He had his girlfriend and her 2 grown daughters with him. Al was there with his family. Some funky went down on that plane. My man was completely gone and out of it. I went straight to my plane after the show and home to San Francisco. I never spoke to him again after telling him to keep his hand off my shirt. Well, that's the end of Chapter 14. Let me know what you thought of Chapter 14 in the comments below. That does it for today's video, guys. I hope you enjoyed. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already. I really appreciate the support. I'll see you next time. Till then, rock on.